live on Facebook. Just a moment, we'll be streaming on YouTube as well if you want to switch platforms. Hey, our YouTube, let me go ahead and say hi. Hey, YouTube, Jenna Kurosawa, that girl on Anchor FM, also Facebook. Let's see. Here we are on TikTok as well, short little videos, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. So all over the place, and of course, Anchor FM. Let me start off by saying at any point in time you're consuming this content, or if you don't want to listen to it, I have an overview or outline on blogspot.com, also under Jenna Kurosawa. So if you don't want to listen or if you don't want to look at it, you can just go ahead and read the overview or over there. Like I said, any point in time you're consuming this content, all I can hope is that you're having a good day or night or whatever. Hope it's going well. If not, for that I apologize, and I hope I don't waste your time. I'm going to be talking about really fast. Well, let me recap. On Saturday, the 18th of September, 2021, the title was What Fuels Your Fear? And I talked about an interview with Josh Brolin, an actor, and his perspective of fear and how he's just I want to understand how I can get to that state of mind because, he's coming from a different perspective of an average white male, me, average Black woman. So it's like I have a different perpetual fear, but so that's what I discussed about last week. If you want to check that out in more detail, and we talked about as well. Safety, that was really the big one, was really safety. And then what else? Oh, so for today, though, let me touch on talking about childcare, discovering that there's professional childcare centers out there for career people and for schools. So if you're a parent or a single mother, there's places out there. We're trying to bring awareness of those facilities and hopefully implement them more and make them more available for women. And then talking about as well homeschoolers, sustainable outdoor learning environment. So a teacher has worked through with a lot of other support to create an outdoor classroom. And that was in thousand. That's going to be probably a little bit heavier. It's going to be the treatment of one another. Battle of the sexes kind of discussion. Want to be treated. We're amongst the age of fourth wave feminist and equal rights for everyone. So when incidences of sexual assault from both genders, since we're talking about equal rights for everyone, how do we actually handle that? And how do we prepare our next generation of children, for a world where everything's kind of confusing? We're like, I didn't know if she was into me or anything. So let's have an honest conversation about that. So that is my intro. Again, if you're just now tuning in, this is that girl, Jenna Kurosawa. I am streaming on Facebook Live, here on YouTube as well. And the outlines will be available after this. So if you want to check out my blog spot, TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest. Yep, different places. So let me just start off on a really happy note today, because I'm always really encouraged when I come across stories where teachers, despite the harsh, various trainings and the different hats that they have to wear, that's not even necessarily under their subject matter that they're trying to teach. They have all these things they have to, so many different things. It's frustrating. I cannot even imagine being a modern day educator, but there are many people out there who are doing that, and God bless you guys sincerely. With that, I was surprised to hear that one teacher decided to actually leave the classroom and start her own homeschool to educate our children. So she had a classroom of 5 kids, a little small private school. And I think people to start their own businesses and do things differently. We can see that there's been a lot of problems in the public education system, not at the fault of the teachers. The teachers are, aside from those silly movies that they make, mocking teachers, like, bad teacher and their students, I used to be very cynical myself, and I would, hey, anything's possible. And there are teachers out there who cultivate that little spark in their children and their students. It's very frustrating when you have school systems that are in poor circumstances based on things outside of their control. There's just so many things affecting public education right now, to the point where teachers are like, I'm going to kind of take this into my own hands and move out of this system and take the love and passion that I have and place it this way in this environment and continue to cultivate that. So that's amazing to me. If you're able to do that, good on you. If you're still in the public school system working, like, thank you, because children, all of us need to be educated. We need to continue that. And that's why I'm constantly in work mode, where it's like every opportunity is a learning opportunity. You should be learning something from this experience. Be grateful that you have your mind, you have your brain, like something that I should try to keep driving into people, myself included, because as I'm introducing myself back into the world, I'm being pulled into the world that I'm trying to tell people to get out of, like the internet world. We need to plug back into the real world and exercise your mind. Like that's the most amazing thing to me. It's the mind, your brain, how the body works, the idea that we can have a thought in our brain and then our body does it, some things we take for granted, we really do. So that's where I'm like, we need to get our minds fed and seriously educated. And that, brings me to my next subject within this subject. I'm hearing more about professional daycare providers or people who help the caregiving facilities staff their facilities with the right type of people. How do you improve the staffing, the education, the training? So you've got these professional child care providers, and I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Like next level of like I'm hearing about on campuses, certain campuses will have daycares for the students, for faculty, and then certain nursing homes will do this. And, college campuses different as a daycare center attached to the building, so that the parents can go to work and then drop off their children right next door, or if they have a break, they can enjoy a meal with their child, or if their child certain days would be able to see what their mother or father does, killing off the child. Why don't we help the woman at every stage of the pregnancy and just completely take some of those burdens? There's so much independence, and people have their freedoms and their rights, and the only people that they're already in existence. However that happened, if you want to debate science or God, it doesn't really matter. They're already here. So instead of them getting butchered and cut out and causing trauma to the mother, society, we need to step up and offer them the alternatives. I've seen several stories about, young single moms trying to get to college classes, and they're there with their baby, and the professor's like, instead of being mad, they're like, okay, can I hold your baby, or can I hold your toddler? So they're teaching the class and they're still engaging with the baby, and the mother is able to continue their education. I don't see why that's such a taboo idea, that society completely changes their viewpoint on the value of the children, of the child, of the mother. Like we're treating them like cattle and butchering them, or just treating them like one thing or the other. It's either you're going to be doing sex work, or it's amazing what the female body can do and what we've been able to accomplish through the help of men. Men don't look like women. We're different. So our approach has to be different. And it's the current climate that we're in right now. I'm tired of saying the battle of this and protecting the children and strong family units and protecting women who are, generally speaking, not as strong as men. And women tend to be a little bit more prone and vulnerable to attacks, physical attacks. So that's just kind of how it is. It's not really, it's obviously a bad thing, but I'm not saying that there are not women out there who are strong. So always got to put up. But for the most part, though, women, generally speaking, and children need more protection, who are going to ward off the men who don't follow the rules. That's kind of how it works. So as much as I don't like having to have that is the reality. And really fast, let me take off a little bunny trail. Sometimes we can change our perspective on things. A lot of times I kind of lament the fact that, okay, not as strong, but at the same time, it's like, because of me, my position as being a female, and all this goes to all females out there, because just the simple fact that, you do carry life, or you have the potential to carry life, and you have more of the nurturing feminine attributes that make you soft and compassionate and more understanding, more empathetic to things. Like you are the ones that we are the ones that we bring out the emotion and sometimes the direction of things and how they go. Um, very, very flexible, fluid, strong. I think that we deserve the protection. You know, and I've talked with other people, my husband included. Like, uh, why else? Really, why else? What do you guys really want in life? I mean, they always talk about the thing they do, video games and stuff. We need to complement one another. So, back to the main topic about daycare centers. If you'd ever looked up the whole issue with the Industrial Revolution, it has made mention about children not actually being able to see what their father does in the household or what he does to bring in, the money. When fathers go back to work or when they're in the factories, that was the first step, where children kind of lost the connection of what a father does. And some of like a layer of respect is taken out. If you can't connect what the father does for the house, and then eventually when there's wars and stuff, and then mom's leaving the house to go work, um, that affects the family dynamic. Much as people don't have more daycare centers, it's just really for the kids to connect and see what their parents do, and it's more jobs. That's money right there, and that's kind of cool that we can possibly have a new bit of work. New workforce, professional daycare providers, for companies and for schools. So, just throwing some ideas out there. But let me go on honesty. The details, not trying to upset or trigger anyone. It's a heavy subject, but let me just start off with how we're in this new era, right? Um, Everyone wants equal rights, women included, with the feminist movement. So, how does that look? Because I can honestly see why so many modern men are very confused. You don't smile, because guys have a way of trying to let a woman know that they like her, they find her attractive in ways of flirting, where it could be easily misinterpreted as harassment and just one of those things where women have fought for the equal, continuing with our attributes and things that make us different and unique to men. We've women end up doing them, and then they end up doing them like to the extreme. Like take for example, just the base example of to go and cheat with another woman, right? We don't like that men have over the course of history of mankind that they're the ones that have the tendency or their proclivity to be more promiscuous, because of whatever hormones, just anatomy, for whatever reason. That's why we talk about the patriarchy and we talk about how we actually empower the women. So it's just a biological thing. There's a difference in the gender. Whatever the reason is that we have the differences, of course, before, I don't want to get into that. Let me just go back to the basics, okay? Because we can talk about why things are changing so fast, but that's kind of what we're talking about. So we're just going off the basics. Men tend to be a little bit more than women on average. So the question is, instead of us women maintaining that, hey, we don't like being cheated on, we don't like when you have multiple girlfriends when we were supposed to be in a monogamous relationship. Once upon a time, it was a big deal if a man cheated on his wife, if he had an affair. At one point in time, I think it was punishable upon. It was really heavily frowned upon to step out of the relationship, to have multiple partners, multiple girlfriends. Instead of us maintaining that standard and demanding better, we just started acting like them. We just, oh, well, if he can go ahead, people praise a guy for being that way, and they look down on a woman for being that way too. I'm seeing a huge surge of stories about the OnlyFans things and what happened with that. So many women are discovering now that more often than not still get their respect and admiration from his peers, and women will more than likely not garner that same type of respect. That's what's what they wanted. That's what we wanted, right? So the question is now, though, when we have incidences of women preying on men and they're victims of sexual assault and vice versa, I'm just really having a hard time trying to figure out opener. But I can seriously see why, like I said before, modern men are confused about like what do women actually want. And I do hope, men, if you're confused, if you ever listen to me talk on any of these things, usually if there's a negative experience that a woman has with a man, um, and that does not get resolved, so by the time you get to this individual, it's like expectations, they're heartbroken, the worst. And yeah, that's what you have to go off of. And I think this is why I'm so adamant. Like maybe we just kind of need to stop and unplug and backtrack and go back to school and learn what it is that we actually want. Figure out what we're actually doing, what we're trying to accomplish. We've been focused so much about what I want, my happiness, whatever I need to do to get my happiness is all I care about, and then resulting in um, someone else not being happy, and then their only focus is them maintaining their happiness, and then life sometimes is a little bit of sacrifice and a little bit of pain and working through the problems. We're so quick to like sedate ourselves in some kind of series or drinking or something, instead of dealing with the problems. So here we are in modern society where we're still having the battle of the sexes. People are going back and forth with each other. So I'm at the point now, okay, how do people actually want to be treated? Like genuinely, definitely as for women, speaking just out there in the ether, like I'm confused too. How do women actually want to be treated? What does women's empowerment look like? There's too many different subgroups running around, and question today about what happens when people experience sexual assault, both guilty. My argument with that is ultimately, see, this is going back. This is why I'm adamant about having a very strong foundation, a moral compass, a moral guide, a moral standard that you can fall back on. So coming back, from my Christian point of view, my Christian perspective on this, it's essentially if you're not in a, I guess, if you don't want to say marriage, like with a marriage one, okay, then this is not. I'm not talking to you. This is not at all related. I'm talking to two people who are single and they are impaired, and then they get into the sexual relations, and then one person cries rape. Who is at fault? If you cannot determine who really is at fault, like who's the victim, who's the survivor, or who's the guilty party, like how can you actually determine that, right? So my thing is, going back to my Christian foundation and roots, it's like I would just say you're both guilty. You both should like be on probation for a couple of months, and you can't drink, and you shouldn't be doing that. You should know what you're doing. Which poor choices were made, and a small penalty. I don't know. That's obviously there's too many release right away, or this person kept it to themselves for years, or this person didn't say anything, or this person didn't know what was going on because this person was a child. There's so many different high school party, and there's just a million stories and variables and contributing factors to how a person can end up in a position, who's at fault, who's at not. It's a big mess. That's why I'm just adamant about, hey, probably just shouldn't be doing that. You should probably just get married. Just pick one person and stick with that person, and you guys have an agreement. Even if you have to sign a contract, say, hey, before we get into the drinking festivities, do you agree? That's kind of silly, but I don't know. There's a lot of people getting hurt right now, back and forth, not just one gender. It's not about women's issues or men's issues. I'm tired of taking that argument, because we know that there are some men out there getting taken advantage of, obviously. And that needs to be spoken of. A lot of men won't talk about it, so I know, I guess I'll have to do it. And then especially young boys too are getting more so interested in it because of, past child abuse. We may never know the full story or the full extent of someone. So, like I said, I apologize early, if this is a triggering or upsetting topic, but this is something that sometimes needs to be brought up. Like, how do we prevent these things from continuing to happen? How can we teach our young children to be cautious and aware of these things and to know what's going on? How much is it your responsibility? How much is it the responsibility of the school system? Like, this is another question we have to ask. This is why it's titled Get Schooled, because so many times in the past we've had public school systems trying to introduce very, very adult themes to young children, subject matter that does not need to be introduced until they're actually, I don't know, I think it's honestly the parents' decision, but you can teach, anatomy is very important. We need to be taught the biological functions, but ultimately, I'm under the impression that this is the parents' responsibility and job. And the school systems kind of, some of them have pushed certain subject matter and topics that I'm like, okay, it's good to be aware of things and prepare, but it's, also a different thing as opposed to trying to teach them to be safe, and more often than not actually avoid it, because there's already enough evidence to support, a little bit of behavior easily trickles down to more riskier behavior. The whole thing of giving students, contraceptives or condoms, there's plenty of evidence to support that shows that they eventually don't use them, but that's for a different day, different discussion. I'm just talking, this is just an introductory, I guess, for a potential series of like, how do we really give children information about clear boundaries and understanding, hey, this is not going to happen. If we're in this environment, it needs to stop, or I need to get out of it before it ends up here. And really know, especially for the young women, how do you really want to be treated? And what does women's empowerment really look like? And yeah, how do we cope with an environment where it's pretty much any respect and no one's getting taken advantage of, no one's getting hurt, no one's getting lied to? We keep talking about these things. So how does that look? And how do we empower the women? And how do we keep families safe? And as well as, I guess, yes, I keep forgetting, the young men. I will leave you with all these questions, more questions than answers. But hopefully someone else out there will either provide me with more of the answers, or we will work together for a new action plan to truly keep people safe. And that we'll have clear understanding of what it is that someone wants or doesn't want, and we can avoid more of these incidences. Hopefully, prayerfully, we can work together and figure this out. So with that, I have also some more interesting news to share. With that, though, I'm very excited because I was going through this really cool magazine, the California Teachers Association, and I discovered sustainable outdoor learning environment. And this teacher, her name is, let me get the correct name, Heather Farrell. And it is, so far, I haven't done any more research. I just came across this article, reading it, and I was like, this is absolutely amazing. This is awesome. So I'll share a little bit of what she said, or what her former principal said. I'll give you the direct quote. All right, so it says, in 2017, her former principal, Lou Litchi, handed her a flyer from Schneider Electric, a Paris-based multinational company specializing in sustainable electricity, showing a concept for a sustainable outdoor classroom, and asked her opinion. And then this is her response. She says, I knew immediately, students learn being outdoors also helps reduce stress and increases students' productivity and creativity. So there's a lot more in there. Another science teacher shares his information about doing science experiments. Obviously, you're right there in nature. And it has, a huge 85-inch screen TV, plug-in stuff. They have fans. I put the link in the YouTube description as well as on my Facebook page, and it's on blogspot.com. So you can check out this article from California Teacher Association. It came out all the way back in June 8th, 2021, and they're talking about unrolling this in the fall. So I should definitely follow up and see if it's how it's going. And if you are an educator or somewhere, you know, in a position to teach and educate children, definitely check this out, especially if you're looking for some alternatives. I'm constantly, as you know, on my little podcast talking about getting back into nature, getting back into the simple things. And here is a perfect compilation of technology meets outside in their own environment. We can incorporate the homeschool teachers who do in the private school centers, for employers, single mothers or young moms. You know what? And fathers as well. Definitely, always fathers. Definitely good for children to see what their fathers do at work and to be engaged and in tune with what it actually means to be a grown up. There's so much that can be done with education, and as parents, grandparents, uh, foster parents, aunts, uncles, people who work with who are professional care providers, people that work with special needs adults or alternate needs adults. If you're in a position to, these are the things like I am so happy and encouraged to see, and I hope that all of us can kind of adopt these things in our communities. Hands-on learning, taking the students from shop classes, teaching them how to work on cars, um, carpentry, people who honestly has to work and then is always going to be in need and demand. I believe I read somewhere that Harrison Ford, and Han Solo, Indiana Jones dude, he at one point in his life was making more money as a carpenter than as an actor. Um, Carpentry, very, very honest living, very special talent, special eye. I think Jesus' dad was a carpenter. Anyways, I can only imagine working with that. I did a little bit of it in high school, out of the classroom, and seeing how what they're learning in black and white on paper, how it actually looks in real life, to see what our parents do, to understand how they contribute to everything. And, we go through life, it feels as if, I've been mentioning this book. Let me bring it out. It's been at least a week. It's called Do Hard Things right here. I know it might be backwards for a couple of screens. Written by Alex and Brett Harris. The intro by Chuck Norris. It's pretty much saying, a teenage rebellion against low expectations. And we are barely demanding things from us, and like we get to adulthood, and we're just realizing like, no one really challenged me, no one really pushed me, or very few people really believed in me. I felt like I was just kind of like ushered through, and so many things were lessons that could have been had. It's no one's fault. Like, this is just how life works. But sometimes every now and then you just need to stop and think like, wait a second, whoa. Like, we're missing something. Like, there's some things missing, and like let us learn quickly and prepare the next generation with independence. We have forgotten the true value. You've got a strong support system. And if you did not have a strong family support system, I can definitely understand why what I'm so that there's a possibility for it still. Peers and coworkers, find different support groups out there who are specifically understand your needs, desires, your interests, things that you're struggling with. This is the benefit and the beauty of the internet, being able to find the right help and the right resources. Again, if you didn't have the strong family unit, any of them, again, that is where I am very, very, very grateful for technology. Definitely reap one another and build up a strong family unit, and that which ultimately will make society better. And society better, than you're happier, you're safer, you're more relaxed, you have better health, and you really can enjoy growing and cultivating, which is what we were designed to do. Plant something, cook something, make something, build something, a car, take care of our kids, take care of one another. The question is like, how do people want to be treated? That's how everything kind of ties in. let me go ahead and transition on out of here and get talking on some more things. Tuned into that girl, Jenna Kira Silvan. You're consuming this content, that you've learned something, that you've taken something from it, and if not, I apologize for that. I will be back on here tomorrow, 11:23 p.m. or 23:23. Just a quick recap. Again, just talking about the child care centers, people stepping out of the classrooms to either start their own private schools or having, like I said, this slow, high-tech, not slow, it's SOUL, sustainable outdoor learning environment. Classrooms, very, very awesome outdoor classrooms, thinking outside of the box. Sorry, I had to. Very, very awesome, very, very innovative. Also discussing how we really want to be treated, like what does women empowerment look, and how do we feel safe? All really, really related, all connected. And I'm just genuinely praying and hoping that, again, any point in time you're consuming this content, you're doing well. I hope you learned something or took something from it. With that,